Should you be afraid of masturbation when you get old? Don't miss it while you still want it. You're not too old to feel. Not too old to want. And certainly not too old to care for yourself, in every way that matters. Today, we're talking about something rarely said out loud. But once we do, you might just feel seen in a way you haven't in a long time. Ready? Let's begin. When we talk about aging, most conversations center around physical health, retirement planning, or staying mentally sharp. But there's another aspect of growing older that often gets swept under the rug: sexuality. Specifically, the quiet, often unspoken topic of masturbation among older adults. For many seniors, the desire for intimacy doesn't just fade away with time, it evolves. And yet, there's still a lingering sense of embarrassment or shame surrounding this natural human need. Let's be honest, the phrase, elderly and masturbation, is rarely mentioned in polite company. Cultural norms have long made sexuality a taboo subject for seniors, especially for those who grew up in a time when sexual expression was considered something to be kept behind closed doors, or not acknowledged at all. But times have changed, and so should the way we approach conversations around aging and sexual health. The truth is, sexual well-being is an important part of overall health, even in later years. Masturbation, in particular, is a normal, healthy, and safe way for people of any age to explore their bodies, find comfort, and relieve stress. For older adults, especially those who have lost a spouse, are no longer sexually active with a partner, or are living alone, masturbation can be one of the few remaining ways to stay connected to their own sense of desire, pleasure, and personhood. And yet, despite how common this behavior is, yes, even after 60, 70, or 80, many seniors feel conflicted about it. They may feel like they are doing something wrong or immature. Some worry that their children or caregivers would disapprove if they knew. Others may silently question, is it normal for someone my age to still have sexual needs? Let us answer that clearly: yes, it is normal. And more importantly, it's nothing to be ashamed of. There's no expiration date on the human need for affection, touch, and connection. And while masturbation may not replace emotional intimacy or physical closeness with a partner, it can provide comfort, reduce loneliness, and even improve sleep and mood. It's a way for older adults to reclaim a part of themselves that the world too often tells them to ignore. This article isn't about encouraging or discouraging masturbation. Instead, it's about offering understanding, compassion, and permission, especially for those who may have grown up being told that sexuality ends at a certain age. It doesn't. And neither should our willingness to talk about it. So no, you don't need to feel ashamed. You don't need to feel strange. If you're an older adult who still feels desire, still enjoys touch, or simply wants to feel good in your own body, that is a beautiful, human thing. Let's start the conversation here, with honesty, dignity, and a little less fear. Scientific perspective: masturbation is not just a personal matter. Sexuality doesn't stop with age, it simply changes. While the media often portrays sexual desire as something that belongs to the young, the truth is that many older adults still experience a healthy, vibrant interest in sex. And for some, masturbation becomes one of the primary ways to express that desire, especially in later life, when relationships, physical health, or mobility may shift the way intimacy is experienced. Let's start with the science. Masturbation is a completely normal and medically recognized sexual behavior. It is not a sign of loneliness, deviance, or immaturity. In fact, the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors and Therapists, ASECT, as well as many geriatric health professionals, affirm that masturbation among seniors is a natural and healthy form of sexual expression. But why is this important? Because when we talk about aging, we often forget that sexual health is part of overall well-being. The World Health Organization defines sexual health as a state of physical, emotional, mental, and social well-being in relation to sexuality, not merely the absence of disease or dysfunction. That includes the right to experience sexual pleasure, even through solo practices like masturbation. So, what are the specific benefits of masturbation for older adults? 1. Stress relief and emotional regulation. Aging can come with new sources of anxiety, loss of a partner, retirement, financial changes, or health issues. Masturbation can serve as a safe and natural stress reliever, helping to reduce cortisol levels and improve mood. The body releases endorphins and oxytocin during orgasm, chemicals that promote feelings of relaxation and happiness. 2. Improved sleep quality. Sleep disturbances are common in older adults. Some studies show that masturbation, particularly when it leads to orgasm, may help the body fall asleep faster and enter deeper sleep cycles. It can be a non-medicated method of improving sleep hygiene. 3. Body awareness and sexual function maintenance. As the body changes with age, due to hormonal shifts, medications, or illness, it can be easy to disconnect from physical sensations or become overly self-critical. Masturbation encourages continued awareness and acceptance of the body, helping to maintain sensitivity, blood flow, and sexual response over time. In women, for instance, regular clitoral stimulation can help prevent vaginal atrophy, a common postmenopausal condition where the vaginal tissue becomes thinner and less elastic. For men, masturbation may aid in maintaining erectile function and prostate health. 4. Empowerment and autonomy. One of the greatest challenges some seniors face is the loss of control over their schedules, their health, and even their privacy in assisted living facilities. Masturbation is a deeply personal act that restores a sense of agency and dignity, allowing individuals to reconnect with their own pleasure on their own terms. 5. Safe sexual outlet. In cases where someone no longer has a partner, or has chosen to remain single, masturbation provides a risk-free way to enjoy sexual expression without concerns about sexually transmitted infections or relationship obligations. It is a safe, solo activity that does not require external validation or permission. Of course, like anything else, balance is important. Masturbation becomes a concern only when it interferes with daily life, causes physical pain, or is accompanied by compulsive behavior. But these cases are rare. For the vast majority of older adults, masturbation is a quiet, healthy, and private part of their self-care routine, often unspoken, but deeply human. What's especially unfortunate is that these benefits are often overshadowed by cultural silence. Because no one talks about masturbation in older age, many seniors internalize shame or guilt around it. They worry it's weird or inappropriate. Some may even fear that caregivers or family would disapprove. This kind of shame-driven silence can be damaging. It suppresses a part of ourselves that deserves recognition, not repression. That's why education and open dialogue matter. Health professionals need to create safe spaces where seniors can talk about sexuality without fear of judgment. Family members and caregivers should learn how to respect boundaries and honor the autonomy of aging loved ones. And most importantly, older adults themselves should feel empowered to explore what pleasure and intimacy mean for them, regardless of age. In conclusion, masturbation in later life is not just okay, it's beneficial. It's a small, private way of reclaiming control, reducing stress, staying connected to the body, and honoring the lifelong presence of desire. Science doesn't just support it, it celebrates it. And perhaps it's time society did too. Social and psychological challenges. Even though science tells us that masturbation is healthy at any age, many older adults still feel uncomfortable with the idea. It's not just about biology or physical health, it's about beliefs, upbringing, and the emotional landscape that surrounds aging and sexuality. For many seniors, the biggest hurdle isn't physical, it's psychological and social. Let's go back in time for a moment. Most people who are now in their 60s, 70s, or 80s grew up in a very different cultural climate. In the mid-20th century, discussions about sex were often taboo, even among married couples. Masturbation, in particular, was surrounded by shame, misinformation, and sometimes even fear. Religious teachings, family values, and school education all tended to portray it as immoral, dirty, or something only teenagers do. These early messages can leave lasting emotional imprints, even decades later. It's not uncommon for older adults to carry quiet guilt about their own bodies, especially when it comes to pleasure. Even if they've become more open-minded over the years, those deep-seated beliefs don't always disappear overnight. As a result, many seniors find themselves asking questions like, "Is this still appropriate at my age? What if someone finds out? Does this make me seem lonely, desperate, or broken?" The answer to all of those questions is simple: no. But the fact that they're being asked tells us something important: we haven't done a good job normalizing sexual autonomy in later life. For older adults who are single, due to divorce, widowhood, or by choice, the absence of a partner can lead to long stretches without touch or intimacy. Masturbation might be one of the few remaining ways to feel connected to the body and to experience pleasure. But even then, many resist it out of fear of being judged. In residential care settings, the situation can be even more complicated. Privacy is limited. Residents may share rooms or rely on aides to help them with daily tasks. In these environments, the need for personal boundaries and dignity becomes even more important, but also harder to protect. Unfortunately, some caregivers or staff may still hold their own biases about sexuality in older age, dismissing it as inappropriate or disruptive. This can create an atmosphere of shame that discourages residents from even expressing their needs. Another major factor is body image and self-esteem. Aging often brings physical changes, wrinkles, sagging skin, weight fluctuations, and medical devices, that can make individuals feel unattractive or disconnected from their previous sense of sensuality. This can lead to a reluctance to touch one's own body, or a belief that, "those days are behind me." Society reinforces this by rarely portraying older adults as sexual beings. When was the last time you saw a senior character in a movie or TV show portrayed as sexually confident or physically desirable, without being turned into a joke? The media's silence sends a powerful message: sex is for the young, and once you've passed a certain age, it's time to give it up. But that's simply not true. The emotional impact of these messages is profound. It's not just about sex, it's about dignity, identity, and connection. When older adults internalize the belief that they are no longer allowed to experience sexual pleasure, it can feed into feelings of loneliness, depression, and even hopelessness. Sexuality is a deeply human part of who we are. When it's ignored or suppressed, a part of the self is silenced. The good news is, things are starting to change. With the rise of more inclusive conversations around aging, sexuality, and mental health, we're beginning to see shifts in how these topics are discussed. Advocacy groups, healthcare professionals, and even some senior living communities are leading the way, offering workshops, counseling, and safe spaces where older adults can talk openly about sexual wellness. What matters most is this: we must break the silence. Whether you're an older adult navigating these questions yourself, a family member supporting a loved one, or a healthcare provider working with seniors, acknowledging and honoring sexual needs should be part of the conversation. We don't age out of intimacy. We don't grow too old for pleasure. And we certainly don't lose the right to feel good in our own skin. Shame has no place in a healthy life, at any stage. It's time to replace silence with compassion. To look at masturbation in older age not as something shameful or strange, but as something personal, natural, and worthy of respect. Because aging should never mean giving up parts of yourself that make life rich, joyful, and deeply human. Masturbation as a form of self-care. Self-care takes many forms. For some, it's going for a walk, sipping tea by the window, or taking a long bath. For others, it's journaling, gardening, or calling a friend. But there's one form of self-care that rarely makes it into the conversation: sexual self-care. And yes, that includes masturbation. For older adults, especially those navigating retirement, loss, or a shift in physical health, the need for comfort, connection, and emotional grounding is more important than ever. Masturbation, far from being a taboo or childish act, can be a gentle and affirming way to reconnect with the self. In fact, when seen through the lens of self-care, it becomes a deeply healing practice, one that supports emotional well-being, confidence, and even spiritual presence. Let's take away the stigma and call it what it is, a private moment of self-love. As we age, our bodies change. Skin becomes thinner, joints may ache, and hormonal shifts can affect everything from energy levels to sexual response. These changes can be challenging, but they don't make us less deserving of pleasure or touch. In fact, learning to be present with your body, in whatever state it's in, is a radical act of self-acceptance. For many older adults, masturbation offers a way to affirm that they are still alive, still worthy of sensation, still capable of joy. It doesn't have to be intense or goal-oriented. It can be slow, quiet, simple, just a way to feel warmth, to breathe deeply, to pause and listen to your own needs. This is especially meaningful for people who have lost a long-term partner. Grief and sexuality are often treated as opposites, but they aren't. Missing someone doesn't mean you've stopped needing intimacy or comfort. Masturbation can provide a safe, gentle bridge between sorrow and healing, a way to reclaim a part of life that loss may have taken away. Moreover, in the face of loneliness or social isolation, which many seniors experience, especially those living alone or in residential care, sexual self-care can be empowering. It's one of the few areas where older adults can exercise full autonomy. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't have to explain yourself. It's your body. Your moment. Your choice. And it's okay to make it a ritual. Light a candle. Put on soft music. Choose a time when you feel calm and unhurried. This isn't just about physical stimulation, it's about making space for yourself in a world that often asks older people to shrink, to be quiet, to disappear. No, this moment is yours. If you're someone who feels unsure or uncomfortable with this idea, consider this: masturbation is not about replacing anything or anyone. It's not about giving up on romance or relationships. It's simply about being present with yourself. And in a culture that often ties value to youth, being able to say, "I still deserve to feel good in my skin," is revolutionary. Some older adults even report that masturbation helps them feel more in control of their bodies during periods of health challenges, like after surgery, menopause, or changes in mobility. The familiarity and comfort of touch can reduce stress and help re-establish trust in one's physical self. And let's not forget the emotional benefits. Taking time for pleasure, in any form, sends a powerful message to your brain: I am worthy of care. It can reduce anxiety, increase self-compassion, and promote emotional resilience. Especially during times of uncertainty or transition, even a brief moment of self-connection can be grounding and reassuring. One thing that often gets overlooked is that sexuality is not only about intercourse or performance, it's about feeling. Feeling desired, feeling alive, feeling close to yourself. These are not trivial things, they are deeply human needs. And when we meet those needs in healthy, respectful ways, we nurture our mental and emotional health too. This is why it's so important that we stop treating masturbation like a dirty little secret, especially for older adults. Because when we do that, we rob people of one of the most accessible forms of comfort and care available to them. Instead, let's reframe the conversation, not around shame or guilt, but around dignity, connection, and well-being. So if you're an older adult who's exploring this part of your life, or thinking about it for the first time in a long while, know this: you have every right to enjoy your body. You have every right to listen to your needs, to find your rhythm, to say yes to yourself. Self-care doesn't stop at bubble baths and green tea. Sometimes, it's about closing your eyes, breathing deeply, and saying, "This moment is for me." And that's more than okay, it's beautiful. When to consult a specialist. Masturbation is, for most people, a completely normal and healthy part of life, especially as we age. But like any aspect of health and wellness, there may be times when things don't feel quite right. And when that happens, it's important to know, you're not alone, and you're not broken. You may simply benefit from talking with someone who can help. The first thing to remember is this: there is no shame in seeking support. In fact, being willing to ask questions or voice concerns about your sexual health is a sign of strength, not weakness. It means you care about your body, your happiness, and your overall well-being. That's something to be proud of. So, when should you consider talking to a healthcare provider, therapist, or counselor about masturbation or related issues? 1. If you're experiencing physical discomfort or pain. While masturbation is typically safe, some older adults may notice changes in sensation, discomfort, or even pain during or after the experience. This can be due to natural aging, medications, menopause, prostate issues, or chronic conditions like arthritis. For example, postmenopausal women may experience vaginal dryness or thinning tissue that causes discomfort during stimulation. This is common and treatable, often with over-the-counter lubricants, topical estrogen, or simple lifestyle changes. But if ignored, it can lead to ongoing distress or avoidance of intimacy altogether. Men may experience erectile difficulties, reduced sensitivity, or pain due to an enlarged prostate or circulatory issues. Again, these are medical concerns that a doctor can help manage, often with great success. The key here is not to push through the pain or pretend it's not happening. Your comfort matters. And your doctor is there to help, not judge. 2. If you're feeling overwhelmed by guilt or shame. Even in a more open-minded society, many older adults still carry emotional burdens from years of cultural conditioning. If feelings of guilt, shame, or self-loathing arise every time you engage in self-touch, it may be helpful to speak with a therapist, especially one trained in sexual health or aging. You deserve to feel safe and accepted in your own body. A qualified mental health professional can help you unpack those beliefs, reframe them, and build a healthier relationship with your sexuality, no matter what age you are. This is especially important if those negative feelings are tied to religious trauma, past abuse, or early messages that equated sexual desire with sin or weakness. 3. If masturbation is interfering with your daily life. Masturbation, like any behavior, can become problematic if it becomes compulsive. For some individuals, it may turn into a coping mechanism for deeper emotional issues like loneliness, depression, or anxiety, to the point where it begins to affect daily functioning. Ask yourself: do I feel out of control? Am I avoiding social interaction, hobbies, or responsibilities because of it? Do I feel a strong sense of regret, emptiness, or anxiety after? If the answer is yes, you may benefit from speaking with a therapist who specializes in compulsive behaviors or emotional regulation. They can work with you to understand the underlying triggers and help you build healthier emotional coping strategies, without shame or judgment. 4. If you have questions about your body or sexual function. Sexual health is often ignored during routine doctor visits, especially for older patients. Many physicians assume older adults are no longer sexually active, which leads to a dangerous silence. But you don't have to wait for your doctor to bring it up. If you have concerns about libido, arousal, physical changes, or medications affecting your sex drive, speak up. Your questions are valid, and your doctor should be willing to answer with respect and clarity. You can even say something as simple as, "I have some questions about changes I've noticed in my sexual health. Would it be okay if we talked about that for a few minutes?" Most doctors will appreciate your honesty, and if they don't, it may be time to find one who does. 5. If you're in a new relationship and want to stay safe. Masturbation is a solo act, but it's also part of the broader conversation around sexual safety. If you're beginning a new romantic or sexual relationship later in life, talking with a provider about STI testing, protection methods, and age-related risk factors is wise. Yes, STIs can still affect older adults, especially in retirement communities, where sexual activity is more common than people realize, but often not discussed. You deserve full-body health, including sexual health. Your sexual health doesn't retire when you do. And while it may change with time, it remains a meaningful and valid part of who you are. If something feels off, physically, emotionally, or spiritually, reach out. There are doctors, nurses, therapists, and counselors who specialize in helping older adults feel confident, empowered, and connected. You don't have to walk this path alone. The most important message: you are not too old to ask questions. You are not too old to learn something new. And you are certainly not too old to care for yourself, in every sense of the word. Let's set the record straight: desire doesn't disappear with age. It may change in form. It may quiet down for a while. It may ask for more gentleness, more patience, or more creativity. But it doesn't vanish, not because the candles on your birthday cake say so, and certainly not because society tells you it should. You are still a whole person. You are still allowed to want closeness, pleasure, intimacy, even if you've outlived a spouse, even if your body has changed, even if it's been years since someone last touched you with tenderness. Those needs didn't expire. They evolved. And masturbation? It's not shameful. It's not just for the young. It's a quiet act of remembering that your body is still yours. That your inner life still matters. That feeling good, on your own terms, is not something you have to apologize for. We live in a culture that often glorifies youth and overlooks the deep, complex, beautiful experiences that come with aging. But aging doesn't mean disappearing. It doesn't mean becoming invisible. And it certainly doesn't mean letting go of all the little joys that make life feel meaningful, including sexual joy. This isn't just about sex. This is about dignity, identity, humanity. It's about honoring the lifelong relationship you have with your own body. It's about saying, yes, I still belong here. Yes, I still matter. So if you find yourself wanting to reconnect with that part of you, whether through touch, fantasy, memory, or gentle exploration, know this. You are not strange. You are not wrong. You are not alone. You are human. And part of being human is the right to feel, to long, to reach, to remember. Even if you live alone. Even if your children would feel awkward hearing about it. Even if no one else ever asks you how you feel inside your skin anymore. You get to ask yourself. You get to answer with honesty, care, and love. If this conversation makes you uncomfortable, that's okay. That's normal. You're allowed to unlearn old stories at your own pace. But don't let discomfort turn into silence. Don't let silence become shame. There is no shame in being alive. And you, dear reader, are very much alive. So whether this journey is something you're just beginning, or something you've quietly practiced for years, or something you've set aside and want to reclaim, you have permission. Permission to feel. Permission to explore. Permission to care for your body, not in spite of your age, but because of your age. Because after all you've lived through, all the love you've given, all the change you've endured, you deserve softness. You deserve peace. You deserve pleasure. And that doesn't stop with age. In fact, maybe it just gets deeper. So light a candle. Close the door. Let the world go quiet for a while. Put your hand on your heart and say it out loud if you want to. I am still here. I still feel. I still deserve to be whole. Because you do. Always have. Always will.